Welcome to this episode of You've Got This. I am Adam Rushforth, and thank you for joining me. Recently, I have been reading and pondering the words of our prophet, President Nelson, in this last General Conference, and one quote stood out in particular. He said, "Today, I am asking us to interact with others in a higher, holier way. Please listen carefully. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy that we can say about another person, whether to his face or behind her back, that should be our standard of communication." That invitation struck me and caused me to ponder on how I could apply that to myself. And after pondering for quite some time, I wrote down the ideas that came to mind, and then pondered some more. I realized how many ways that I could improve both at home and at work. I also thought of an experience that I had where I had handled the situation well. Several years ago, I was receiving training as I was losing my vision on how to do things non-visually, learning how to read Braille, walk with a white cane. And in this case, I was in a home management class learning how to cook and clean. As I was walking into the class, there was a student. I'd already been there for a month or so. And she was talking to somebody else, being very negative about how much I bothered her and was annoying. I had not known this, and I was at first hurt. And my first reaction was to feel negative towards that person and want to think or say negative things back. But I paused and I thought, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to go out of my way to be as kind, as thoughtful, and to say good things about that person, and not to say a negative thing to anyone else about her. And I did that for several months. And after about 2 months, I remember walking into the room where she was, again, talking about me. But this time, she was telling the person about how kind and thoughtful and what a friend I had been. And it was at that point I realized that I was, and the decision I made was making a difference. Another aspect that stood out to me is how we interact with our family and friends. Sometimes we may use humor to say something rude, or we feel that cutting someone down, making fun of them, or calling them names is a great way to build strong bonds. But in the viewpoint of good, better, best, even if we consider those things as a good way to create strong bonds, President Nelson is inviting us to choose a better way. And I repeat the quote I mentioned before, where he said, "Today, I am asking us to interact with others in a higher, holier way. Please listen carefully. If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy that we can say about another person, whether to his face or behind her back, that should be our standard of communication." If we are still thinking that teasing one another and bantering back and forth is the best way to build strong bonds with each other, I challenge us to try it out for a week or two of trying to build up one another and just see how it works. Another thought that comes to mind is how hard it can be to treat people nicely when our thoughts are exactly the opposite. And I'm sure many of us have heard the phrase that says, thoughts lead to acts, acts lead to habits, habits lead to character, and character leads to eternal destiny. The best way to change the way we behave or act towards each other is by changing our thoughts. And in turn, we will then change our character, and even our eternal destiny. I end with this quote from our prophet from the same conference talk. He said, "My dear brothers and sisters, the best is yet to come for those who spend their lives building up others." And I love that part where he says building up. He didn't say that we just stop being unkind, but that we proactively are building up others. He continues, "Today, I invite you to examine your discipleship within the context of the way you treat others." And if I do a little self-reflecting and think about the times that maybe I'm impatient or angry, and then view that in light of my relationship with my Savior and my discipleship, it puts more meaning on it for me. And then he continues and says, "I bless you to make any adjustments that may be needed so that your behavior is ennobling, respectful, and representative of a true follower of Jesus Christ." Even if this is something that we struggle with, you are awesome, and the Lord loves you. So remember, you've got this because He's got you.